Hello everyone, welcome to the fourth video in the factor series. In the last 3 weeks, we looked at three important factors in India. One is the value factor, then 2 weeks back we looked at size factor, and last week we looked at the momentum factor. This week we are going to look at an interesting factor, which is low volatility factor. Who doesn't like low volatile or low volatility with high returns, right? I think that's probably is what we are all looking for. High return with the low risk. But anyhow, in this video, we will look at low volatility factor, how it has performed in India. What are some important characteristics to look for? And also, there are some interesting funds in India to look out for in the low volatility space. So to start off with, there are about 40 funds. Obviously, in India there are different versions of the same fund, regular version, direct version. When I was going through all the funds in India, one thing to note is that there aren't any active low volatility funds in India. So almost all of them are index based funds. So pretty much most funds are tracking Nifty 100 Low Volatility 30 index. So pretty much all of them are index funds. So there are only mainly two indices in the low volatility space. One is the Nifty 100 Low Volatility 30 index. That's one. Second one is the other index, which is Nifty Alpha Low Volatility 30, which has some momentum characteristics as well. When I was going through the list of these funds, one fund was a bit unique and it was kind of named differently as well, which is the SBI Equity Minimum Variance Direct Fund. So when I was going through this fund, basically the main difference between low volatility and SBI, the minimum variance is that low volatility picks the low volatile stocks. That is like, let's say, 100 stocks, right? You order it by volatility and you pick the top 30, that is the low volatility, low volatile stocks. Whereas minimum variance is kind of sounds similar, but minimum variance aims to reduce the portfolio, the overall portfolio volatility. And that's why you also see a high overlap between Nifty 50 and the minimum variance. So pretty much both of them have like same number of stocks. If you look at the overlap of Nifty 50 with the SBI Equity Minimum Variance Fund, it's 51 out of 52 stocks, right? So which is a high number of overlap, right? Pretty much all the stocks in Nifty 50 are also in this fund. But you see the weight, in terms of weight overlap, it's only 51%. So basically, they changed the weighting of the Nifty 50 to reduce the volatility. So if I add Nifty 50, like I'll just add the Nifty B's, Nifty 50 B's ETF here, and what you can see here is something interesting. It has outperformed the last 2 to 3 years, right? But more importantly, it did it with low volatility. So as you can see here, volatility wise, it is 15.5 compared to Nippon, that is Nifty 50, which is around 18.13%. So in terms of product, this probably comes under like an active low volatility product. And you can also see some low volatile characteristics, and also just to look at the volatility, right? It has reduced the volatility of the entire portfolio when you just compare it to Nifty B's. So this is something, some like one of the interesting products in India under the low volatility space, right? And let's start off with like just the analysis of a proper low volatile fund. So let's just quickly pick low volatility, one of the low volatility ETFs, and take it to Fund Analyzer to see whether it is showing any low volatile characteristics. So we always start off with like just like a performance check, right? So as I mentioned before, all of the funds, that is all of the low volatility funds in India are index funds, and it is tracking the Nifty 100 Low Volatility 30 index, and you can see the correlation is just one, right, between the low volatile, this ETF, which is the ICICI Prudential one. So the correlation to the Nifty 100 is just exactly the same. It's exactly tracking the index, and that's what it's supposed to do. It's an index fund, right? Now coming to the interesting aspect of this fund, which is this fund giving you low volatile exposure? And the answer is 100% yes. So it has it has given consistent low volatility exposure, and currently the low volatility factor beta is around 0.5, right? And you can also see in terms of the risk sources, you can see a consistent low volatility exposure since the inception of this fund, which is great to know, right? So you expect a product to do something, and you exactly get what you are paying for. I think in this case, you're paying 0.41% to the index fund manager, which is managing the Nifty 100 Low Volatility 30 index fund. So now that we know what kind of characteristics in the fund there are in the characteristics, we are pretty much sure that okay, we expect the fund to do what it's supposed to do, right? To show low volatile characteristics, which we have confirmed using the return-based factor exposure analysis. Now let's quickly take the top five ETFs or top five funds in India and check which one has performed well, what are the different characteristics of various of these funds. So let's just pick the volatile, like the ICICI one. Again, this is another ETF, which is the Alpha Low Volatility 30. It is not same, but it has some momentum characteristics as well. So I'll pick that. I'll go to the next page. I'll pick the Bandhan Nifty 100 Low Volatility, again, like same index fund, right? And I'll also pick the Nippon one. And finally, I will pick the UTI BSE Low Volatility Fund. So if we take this to asset comparator, what we can see is, well, so the Nifty Alpha Low Volatility has outperformed both the low volatile indices, right? That is the low volatility, the ETI Low Volatility Index, as well as the Bandhan Nifty 100 Low Volatility 30 Index, right? Has outperformed both of them. And if we go to the factors, right, the factor betas that we are looking for is the low volatility, which is great, right? So you're expecting it to have low volatile exposure, and exactly you're getting what you're paying for, right? And the expectation is clear here, and we can also see that here, right? There is clear low volatility exposure. Now coming to the style boxes, this is where it gets even more interesting. So just look at this one. This just summarizes. I just love this chart. This just summarizes all these ETFs in an easy way. So if you look at the low volatile ETFs, right? So we have three low volatile ETFs, which are these Nifty 100, the Bandhan Nifty 100, and these three, right? And you can see all these three funds are in the low volatile, like the low volatility from a fundamental perspective. Whereas the Alpha Low Volatility 30, which has, as I mentioned, has some momentum characteristics as well, right? You see alpha in the name itself, and you expect it to have momentum characteristics, and it also has low volatility. So what do you get when you put together? You get the chart, right? So it is ranked high on momentum and low on volatility, and that just summarizes the entire fund in just one simple chart with five dots, which is great to see, right? And yeah, I think that kind of summarizes the video of the low volatility in India, right? So we started off with analyzing this interesting fund, which is the SBI Minimum Variance Fund, which was like kind of comes under the low volatility factor, but the goal of that fund was not to pick the low volatile stocks, but to decrease the overall portfolio volatility, and we compared it with the Nifty 50, right? And you can see that pretty much they overlap in terms of stocks, but the portfolio volatility here was completely lower when we looked at just the portfolio volatility, right? So it was completely lower than the Nifty 50. Then we looked at ICICI Prudential to see whether it has no low volatility factor beta exposure since its inception, and we confirmed that that fund also fund has factor beta exposure to the low volatility factor. Then we moved on to comparing these five funds, right? And we looked at how the style box, in just one chart, it just summarizes all these five funds in a quick and easy way. Yeah, I think that's it for this video. Thanks a lot for watching. See you next time.